Welcome to the deep dive. If trying to figure out what to post on Instagram feels, less like a solid plan and more like you're just, well, throwing spaghetti at the wall hoping something sticks, you're
Mm.
absolutely not alone there. It's this like constant battle, isn't it? Trying to stay consistent, keep your content fresh, and feel like you're actually getting somewhere with your goals.
Oh, totally. It's that frantic last-minute scramble, right? Trying to whip up something decent to post. It often just leads to burnout, honestly, and you miss out on chances to really connect.
Exactly. And that chaotic feeling, that's precisely what we're diving into today. We've been digging into this really comprehensive guide all about creating an Instagram content calendar. Our mission here is basically to pull out the key, like the game-changing insights from that source material, to give you a practical blueprint, something that takes you from that spaghetti-throwing chaos to posting that feels, intentional, engaging, and really geared for actual growth.
And look, if you're listening because you're ready to speed up that growth, maybe move beyond just having a plan to actively boosting your presence. Well, the source material does hint at needing the right resources and maybe some expert support for like specialized tools and help to really sharpen that calendar execution and get your brand message fine-tuned. You can discover options over at rapidboost.net.
Okay, so stick with us because the guide we looked at really lays out how a solid calendar isn't just about, ticking a box. It's about transforming your whole process. You should walk away with a much clearer picture of how planning ahead can mean, well, less stress, higher engagement, real follower growth, and frankly, making the whole content creation thing way more enjoyable.
Right, okay, let's get into it. Source kicks off straight away by hitting us with why an Instagram content calendar isn't just like a nice to have. It's pretty essential if you're serious about the platform. It basically identifies overwhelm and inconsistency as the main villains killing your social media growth.
Which makes total sense, right? I mean, if you're not showing up regularly or your feed is just this random jumble of
Yeah.
whatever, it's incredibly hard for people to get what you're about or, feel any kind of connection.
Precisely. And the guide argues that planning ahead, it unlocks some huge benefits that go way beyond just being organized. Take consistency, for instance. It's not just about the algorithm maybe liking regular posts. The source really emphasizes that consistency actively builds trust with your audience. When they know you'll be there, providing value or entertainment, they're just far more likely to stick around and engage.
Okay, yeah, and building on that trust, planning must also tackle that feeling of scrambling we talked about earlier. The source makes a great point about how it leads to genuinely better content quality. Having a calendar gives you that critical breathing room. You can actually brainstorm ideas, maybe batch shoot photos or videos one afternoon, and really craft thoughtful captions instead of just hammering something out 5 minutes before hitting post.
That's spot on. It completely flips your mindset from reactive, ooh, I need to post something, to being proactive and, well, creative. And this naturally leads to another key benefit the guide highlights: strategic variety. With a calendar laid out, you can intentionally mix things up. Your content formats like using reels, those short, punchy videos, or stories, the stuff that vanishes after 24 hours, great for in-the-moment things, plus your static posts, your standard grid images, and carousels, those swipeable multi-image posts. And you can plan for a mix of topics and calls to action too.
Ah, the format rotation idea. The source mentions some creators find it helpful to assign specific formats to specific days, maybe reels on Tuesdays, carousels on Thursdays. That seems like such a smart shortcut, actually. It simplifies the planning and subtly trains your audience on when to expect certain types of content from you.
Smart. It's a really effective technique, yeah. And for anyone working in a team, the guide points out a shared calendar becomes like the central hub. Keeps everyone on the same page, massively cuts down on confusion about what's planned or who's doing what.
And maybe most importantly, look, if you're putting all this effort in, you absolutely need to know what's actually working. The source emphasizes that having that structured calendar makes tracking your analytics so much more efficient. You've got a clear plan, you can measure results against it, rather than just staring at numbers in isolation.
Which naturally raises the question, does this stuff actually translate into real, tangible results?
Mm.
The guide gives this brief but pretty compelling case study. It was a boutique skincare brand. They shifted from posting sporadically, whenever they felt like it, to using a planned calendar.
Mm.
They started incorporating specific content types, educational posts, customer testimonials, behind-the-scenes stuff on a regular rhythm.
Okay, so what happened? What was the impact of that shift?
Well, within just 3 months, their engagement rates tripled.
Wow.
Yeah, not just nudged up, a bit tripled.
Yeah.
And the website clicks coming from Instagram doubled. The power wasn't just in what they posted. It was the deliberate, thought-out sequence and rhythm that the content calendar let them create and crucially stick to.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting then. So how do you actually build a calendar that delivers those kinds of results? The source makes it really clear it's not about just grabbing some generic template online and filling in the blanks. It's got to be designed specifically for you, aligned with your goals, who you're trying to reach, your unique voice.
Right. It all starts with clarity, according to the guide. Identifying your goals and your audience. Like, why are you even on Instagram? Is it brand awareness, driving traffic, building community, direct sales? You need specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Smart goals. Forget vague stuff like grow followers.
Yeah, so instead of just grow followers, it might be increase followers by 20% in the next quarter using Reels and Stories, much more concrete. And profiling your audience is non-negotiable, right? Really understanding who they are, when they're online, and crucially, what kind of content they find valuable or entertaining, not just what you feel like putting out there.
Exactly. And defining your voice is just as vital. Are you naturally witty, more formal and educational, playful, entertaining? Consistency in that voice helps your audience feel like they know you, helps build that trust we talked about.
Okay, so after you're clear on goals and audience, the source talks about setting content pillars and themes. These sound like the foundations, like 3 to 5 core subjects.
Yeah, foundational subjects or topics that consistently support your brand message. They ensure your content stays focused but still offers variety. Think about, say, a baker. Their pillars might be new recipes, baking tips and tutorials, and maybe behind the scenes. A financial advisor could use investment basics, saving strategies, client success stories. They provide structure.
And then, like we touched on, mapping out your content formats, static posts, carousels, reels, stories, lives. The guide really hammers home that Instagram, and crucially its audiences, respond well to that kind of intentional diversity.
Absolutely. Just relying on one format can get stale for your audience, and it might even limit your reach. A mix keeps things dynamic, keeps them interesting.
Okay, so we know why we need one and what goes into it. The big question is, how do you actually build this thing? The source breaks it down into actionable steps. Step 1 is looking backward, auditing your existing content.
Yeah, before you plan for the future, you got to see what happened in the past. Dive into your Instagram insights. Which posts did best? What topics got the most comments? Are there formats you barely used, maybe missing out? This data isn't just like interesting trivia. It should directly inform your strategy moving forward.
So analyze the spaghetti that did stick. Makes perfect sense. Okay, step 2 is brainstorming and structuring your ideas.
Yes, this is where you line up your ideas with those pillars and goals. The guide suggests aiming for enough ideas to cover the next 4 or 6 weeks or so. Use whatever tool works for you. It could be simple Google Sheets, Trello, a dedicated social media planner. Just organize your ideas by theme, format, maybe a potential posting date. This is also where you think about repurposing content, making sure you've got a mix of evergreen stuff, always relevant, timely posts, seasonal specific dates, and maybe some trending content too.
Right, don't feel like you have to invent something totally new every single day. Repurposing is key for actually keeping this up. Okay, step 3. Choosing your posting frequency and figuring out optimal times. The source is very clear. Quality over quantity.
This is vital. Pick a frequency you can actually maintain consistently. Seriously, 3 high-quality, engaging posts a week are way, way better than 7 rushed, low-effort ones. Use your Instagram insights again to find the specific times your followers are most active. And maybe consider using simple content buckets for certain days, like Tip Tuesday or Feature Friday, just to add an easy rhythm.
Yeah, that helps anchor the week. Okay, step 4 is translating all that planning into the actual calendar.
This is where the rubber meets the road, basically. Use your chosen tool, Google Calendar, Notion, a scheduler like Later or Hootsuite, even a physical planner if that's your thing, and plug in those brainstormed ideas with their formats and scheduled times.
And crucially, make sure you're adding deadlines for the creation part too, right? Like, when does that graphic need to be done? When does that reel need filming? That's key to staying ahead of the curve. The source also wisely reminds us this calendar should include stories, lives, and even planned engagement time, not just your main feed posts.
Exactly. It's a holistic plan for your whole Instagram presence.
Yeah.
Step 5 then is creating, scheduling, and where you can, automating.
Batch creating sounds like the ultimate time saver here. Just dedicating a block of time, maybe once a week or once a month, to shoot photos, record those reels, draft all your captions at once.
Oh, it's a total game changer for efficiency. Then use scheduling tools. Meta Business Suite is free, or there are paid options like Later or Buffer. But
Right.
and the source really emphasizes this, leave some room for spontaneity. The digital world moves fast. Trends pop up. Real-time events happen. Sometimes the best content comes from reacting quickly. Don't make the calendar so rigid you can't jump on those moments.
That flexibility is kind of the secret sauce, isn't it? Now, even with the best plan, the source highlights some common pitfalls people fall into. The first one is skipping that crucial audience
Oh,
research.
this is huge. Creating content based only on what you want to post instead of what your audience actually responds to. That's like a guaranteed path to low engagement. You have to regularly review your analytics and, maybe even more importantly, listen to the conversations happening in your comments and DMs. What are people asking? What are they talking about?
Overfilling the calendar is another trap, trying to do too much too soon and just burning out before you even see results.
Yeah, start with a pace you can actually sustain. Build consistency, get comfortable with the workflow, and then maybe gradually increase frequency if your process and your audience needs allow for it. Sustainability is absolutely key for the long haul.
And then ironically, neglecting engagement itself, even when you have this growth-focused content plan all mapped out.
It happens. People schedule everything perfectly, but then forget the social part of social media. The guide insists your calendar should literally include dedicated time blocks for responding to comments, replying to DMs, actively interacting with other accounts in your niche, joining conversations. Instagram's a two-way street.
Right. And ignoring performance data feels like completely undermining the whole point of planning in the first place.
It absolutely is. The calendar isn't meant to be set in stone. It's a living document. What resonated last month might fall flat this month. The source really stresses setting aside time monthly, maybe even bi-weekly, to review your analytics. See what worked, what didn't, identify trends within your own content, and then adjust your strategy and your calendar based on that data.
And finally, as we mentioned, failing to build in that flexibility.
Right. The guide even suggests maybe having a designated flex slot each week in your schedule. This lets you react to a trending topic or a sudden news item relevant to your niche or just a spark of spontaneous inspiration without completely derailing your whole plan for the week.
The source also runs through various tools and templates that can help, which is useful. Everything from simple planning docs like Google Sheets or Notion
Uh-huh.
to dedicated social media schedulers like Later or the Meta Business Suite.
And they mention content creation tools too, like Canva for graphics or CapCut for video editing. Plus, getting serious about analytics, starting with Instagram's built-in insights, but maybe exploring third-party tools later for deeper dives.
They even provide a simple weekly template example, I think it was, for a fictional coach, showing how you could map out format and theme rotations. Monday motivation reel, Wednesday educational carousel, Friday community story Q&A. It's basic, but it shows the power of that intentional variety.
Yeah, it makes that kind of structure feel achievable, doesn't it? Even if you're just starting small.
So, if you're listening and feeling ready to stop throwing spaghetti and actually start building something strategic, the source wraps up with some clear, decisive steps. Set a clear goal. Audit your past content to learn from it. Choose your core content pillars. Brainstorm ideas aligned with those pillars. Decide on a posting frequency you can sustain. Select your tools. Build out the calendar for, say, the next month. Remember to add that flex slot for spontaneity. Block out time for community management, and schedule a recurring monthly session to review your performance data and refine your plan.
Yeah, the core message from the guide's How to Apply section is really clear. The best calendar isn't the most complicated one. It's the one you will consistently use. Start simple, build a habit, and then refine as you go based on what actually works for you and, most importantly, for your audience.
So what does this all mean when you zoom out a bit? Creating and actually using an Instagram content calendar. It isn't just about organizing posts or being tidy. It's a fundamental strategic shift. It changes how you approach building influence, engagement, and a real community on the platform.
It absolutely transforms your approach. You go from being reactive, stressed, maybe chaotic, to being intentional, proactive, and strategic. This thoughtful planning process is what frees you up from that last-minute scrambling. It enables you to be more creative with your content, and it squarely focuses your efforts on driving deeper engagement and getting results you can actually measure.
Right. Consistency, content quality, strategic variety, real connection. These stop being just abstract ideas. They become the natural outcomes of having and maintaining a well-planned, audience-focused content calendar.
Look, if you commit to this planning process, if you consistently put in the effort, and you always keep your audience's needs and interests front and center, you really will see the difference it makes in growing your community, boosting engagement, and achieving real, tangible results on Instagram.
Okay, now for you listening, to get started, let's pick one small, actionable piece from everything we've discussed, something from the source material. Think about that format rotation strategy, assigning a specific type of content to a specific day. Which one format, maybe it's a reel, maybe a quick story Q&A, maybe just a simple static tip post. Which one format could you commit to using consistently on a specific day next week? Just picking one format for one day can be your first concrete step towards adding that strategic variety and structure to your posts. Something to think about.